Let's have a shave and a tidy up. Oh, yeah, you're right. Fair enough. I always have to check my phone. Sorry, mate. So get fined by the players if it goes off. Can't have that. Paolo might fine me. Never know. Thank you.
Okay. Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our pre-match press conference to preview our game against Bournemouth. We'll start off with Vinny at Sky.
Sean, just to start with, and given your Forest connection, just wanted to get your thoughts on the sad news that Larry Lloyd passed away.
Yeah, I didn't know him personally that well, but obviously I know a lot of the old Forest guard and the legends who were there, and he's certainly one of them. And I'm sure held in high esteem for his achievements, not just at Forest, but certainly for Forest.
For yourself, there's been plenty to deal with in the 3 weeks since you've had a game.
Always is here.
Well, first of all, there was a hearing this week regarding the second charge for a breach of profit and sustainability rules. What indication, if any, have you been given from those who were involved as to how that's gone?
Too early yet, other than they've shared the information that was asked of them. So too early to get a feel of it, and just waiting really like we did last time. I'm sure everyone's hoping that it's fast-tracked slightly, but we'll have to wait and see.
Also, the Premier League have said that they're minded to approve the takeover as well. What have you been told as to the likelihood of 777 partners getting hold of the football club in the next week or so?
I know no more than what I did know. So I'm sure they would let me know, by the way, but I know no more than what I did know, which is not that much really. The one meeting still remains that I had with them, very casual meeting that it was, and waiting for more news.
Do you feel, though, that you're finally getting to the stage where you know exactly where you are at and you can maybe start at least putting some kind of concrete plans in place to move forward?
No, I don't think we're there yet. There's certain things, the club guidelines currently, and kind of giving a feel of where we're at now. But then obviously if that changes, new owners, etc., points maybe, we'll have to wait and see. But no, it's nothing. It's pretty fluid at the moment until we know more news.
And just back to the hearing, I mean, what would you say is a realistic or an acceptable outcome for yourself from that?
Well, I think the last one jolted everyone in football. So I think really we're just waiting now, because I don't think anyone has concrete proof of which way these things will go, and particularly after the first one. So I think it is just, from our point of view, we can only give the information that's appropriate. I wasn't there, obviously, but so I'm told we've given every bit of information that we can give. And hope that they see accordingly what the club's been trying to do to make sure within the right areas that they need us to be in. So therefore, we'll hope that it comes to nothing.
We'll move on to football. Obviously, Jarrad Branthwaite was part of the England squad. What did you make of the fact that he didn't have any game time with England?
I mean, I've never, I know Gareth well, I respect him as well. I've never tried to put any of my thoughts on him. He's asked me about players, their form they're in. But, I would say that as Everton manager and someone who cares for the players, of course, and I was surprised he didn't get even a few minutes. That being said, fantastic experience to be around the group. I know Gareth, they certainly treat them well there. And as a collective, like a unit. So I'm sure he'll have enjoyed that experience. I had a quick word with him today, but nothing heavy. And he's back in the group training with us today.
It's not knocked his confidence at all?
Absolutely not. No, I mean, it can do nothing else than boost him getting a call up to the main side rather than the under-21s. So no, absolute positives all round for him. But, like I say, I'm Everton manager and I care for these players and I would have liked him to get a few minutes. But Gareth wanted to get what he thought was the right team to win. That's the job.
Yourselves, how useful has the break been in terms of just building things up? Because obviously we know 16th of December was the last time you won it.
No, it's been, the challenge we had, as you know, is the extended period due to the change of games, and I think we used it as wisely as we could to make sure, and some have been away, of course. I've only just got them lads back today, and a few of them, have played more minutes than others, Seamus particularly. Miko had great news, of course. Madu played the other night, Canalesso 70-odd minutes. So Poe's played a couple as well. So, we're monitoring them. They did less today, quite obviously, because they've played so recently. Bringing them back down and then ready to train tomorrow and get ready for the Bournemouth game.
Just on Nathan Patterson, obviously you made headlines a little bit during this break. What can you clarify exactly what happened?
Well, yeah, the old favourite, never let the truth get in the way of a story, a good story. So, yeah, there's nothing in it really. It was a joke gone right. I tapped him on the head like your older brother would, and he didn't get the joke. That was it. Basically, there's no more to it. But of course, that wouldn't have sold. So when that news go, everyone has to add layers and layers and layers to it. But it's really that simple. That was it.
But what we saw at the training camp, it looked like finishing wasn't a problem. So how do you go about replicating that in games now?
Well, I think the moment of truth is different when it's on a training pitch. Everyone knows that. And I think sticking to task, I think a lot of the performances have been right. A lot of the performance levels statistically have been right. We've spoken endlessly about it, but the words have to stop at some point and we have to take action. And I think we've been very close to doing that. The freedom to miss, the freedom to score, whichever way you look at it. That's the bit that's missing a lot of our performances is the final moment. So I think just reinforcing to the players the good work they're doing, reinforcing how important the final moments are, of course. But they know that. It's about going into these games with the right frame of mind, and performance-wise we are, but we've got to win games. That's the job, end of.
And you beat Bournemouth comprehensively at Goodison earlier this season, but they seem to be in a lot healthier state than they were back then. So
yeah,
that's the challenges.
Yeah, but they had that really tough start, and then they came through a really strong spell of results, and then a quieter spell, and then popped up with another one. Another couple of good results, and they've turned into a decent outfit. They've worked hard at their game, I think, as have we in different ways. And we. Obviously, with the points added on, would be similar position. But there lies the truth of the story. Bournemouth being rightly so respected for the season they're having, and us being questioned. And you go, well, if we didn't have them points taken away, we wouldn't be getting questioned. So there lies the change in a story. And the facts are that it's still a tough game. It's a Premier League game, and we have to take it on wisely and be ready to go and perform.
Hi, Sean. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vinny. We'll go to Ellen at Premier League Productions.
Hi, Sean.
Hi.
Can we just get an update on Idrissa Gueye and Jarrad Danjuma and where they're at with it?
Yeah, Idrissa played, I think, was 70 minutes or around 70 minutes. A lot of travelling involved, so he's had a quieter day today, but he's fit. And Arnie's only just back on the grass with us. He's been on the grass with the medical side and the sports science side, getting fit and making sure he's well. But literally his first training session with us today as a group. So therefore he's going to need a bit of time to make sure that he's right.
We mentioned that slightly longer break for you and your players, obviously mentioned the international break as well, but do you feel like you're any closer to cracking that code when it comes to goals?
Well, you can never guarantee it, but the stats and the facts suggest earlier season, and I spoke about it clearly then, the team that we have here who break down the numbers, I spoke to them and said, what do you think? And they said, keep doing what you're doing, because the stats were that strong. Then, of course, we won down at Palace, then the break, had the points taken away, and then 4 wins on the trot, so they were kind of correct. We were on the right lines. And we're similar but different now. We've got to a point where the stats are strong, the performance levels are strong, the physicality is strong, the fitness is strong. They're all measurables. The hardest been to measure is the moment of truth when someone, whoever that someone is, takes that chance. You can't always measure the mindset of a player, and it's difficult to recreate that on a training pitch. But you've got to keep doing the right things, and we've got to continue to do that. We are doing lots of the right things, but all the right things are deemed different if you're not winning. If we'd won 5 out of this run, everyone would be saying, yeah, no wonder, because they're playing well. You're not winning, and then they go, they're not playing that well. That's the difference between perception and facts. It's my job to look at the facts.
Because the stats are very good apart from the finishing. And when you look at the stats about chances created and then also expected goals, does that frustrate you at all when you then look at the returns that you've got from it?
Yeah, of course, because the idea of modelling a team is to be successful at both ends of the pitch, and defensively overall, we've had our hiccups, but I think it's been a solid outfit from the front to the back. And in attack, we've done all of them good things, but not put the finishing touch on. And that is frustrating. Of course it is, because you're watching a side play well and not get the goals that bring the rewards. On the other hand, it's the consistency that I spoke about, so I can't change my view now. We need to keep consistent performances, and they've got to be consistently high to win games. So there's a judgment on that where I go, well, the consistency's been good on my eyes, the stats, the facts, and also can we add in the final moments to not just be consistent in performance but win games? And that's been the difference, that winning mentality and winning edge to go and kill a game off and take the final moments.
Bournemouth are a team that you've had particular success against as a manager, but we've already mentioned that they're having their best season in the Premier League. What's it going to take to break them down?
Yeah, they've changed slightly early season. It was out-and-out football. They've gone slightly more direct, not a lot in it. The centre forwards played well for them, of course, and a few changes to this team, but roughly the same kind of plan. And fair play to their manager. He stuck with it when he was getting heavily questioned, and they turned that corner and started winning games. Like I say, a bit less so lately, but they had that real strong spell. No, they're a good outfit, and like I say, you have to be a good outfit to be in the Premier League, but you have to be a good outfit to do what they're doing. So we're aware of that. The players are aware of that. But our mentality has been right, home and away, in particular away after all the question marks when I got here about the away form. So we've got to use our mentality, but use our talent as well and go and take it on.
Just a quick one on Beto. He tops the stats for off-the-ball runs this season, second to Darwin Núñez for runs into the box. He's clearly working incredibly hard on the pitch. What more do you want to see from him?
Well, he's earning the right to have more minutes, of course, and then when you get them minutes, taking chances, and I think the same with Dom. I think Dom's definitely hasn't lacked work ethic and work rate. It's taking the chances, that's what you want from strikers, but you want that from all players. I've said many times, not just about the strikers, it's about the whole outfit.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. We'll go to Julia.
Hey.
While you're talking about looking for those goals, can we expect a change in the style of Everton's play at the moment? Is it something you've worked on in the break, looking to play
We can't work on it in the breaks. A lot of players are away, so you don't really get that chance. Maybe the first week we had a spell when we went away. So some work, but it's the fine lines. Like I said, early season, people suggested we weren't playing that well. I was suggesting we were. And then we turned that into wins, and then everyone said we were playing well. Actually, statistically, we weren't playing as well during that winning run as what we were early season. But the wins changed the perception. And they do for the players as well, by the way. Sometimes it's important the players get them wins as a reward. The format, the way we're working, sometimes individuals change, sometimes the team ethic change, the way that we do change the way the team operate. But it's not always something that's dead obvious to everyone. But I think the subtle change of what you're hoping brings the big change, which is to win games, quite obviously.
You mentioned Seamus before had played twice in 4 days for the Republic of Ireland. I think he got the player of the match as well, isn't he, this week? Given he's a leader, he's been in these situations before, he's an attacking style of player as well. If you can get him back in that side, if he is okay to play, is he somebody that will be back in that starting line?
Yeah, I mean, he's a valuable member of the club, let alone the squad. What he stands for being here, and he's been exceptional, and he still is. And to get them games under his belt is very pleasing, because the hardest thing when they're coming out of injury is to get game time. So we're really pleased with that. And he's never out of contention as long as he's fit, obviously, and he is fit.
Danjuma's only back today then. Just wanted to ask a bit more about him though. He's clearly talented as a player, but when he's been in the Premier League, it hasn't really shown that talent. Is there any reason for that, or is it just the level of the Premier League?
Yeah, I think a mixture of everything. I've spoken to him about it. They're working both ways in the Premier League is slightly different. I believe in his talent. He does as well. There's no two ways about that. Very unlucky, I think, with his injury, because I think he had a good all-round game down at Fulham. In the game he got injured. So we were looking, could he build on the back of that, and then got injured, which is a real shame. His injury's taken slightly longer than he would hope, because he was really pushing. But he's back on the grass now, so we just want to get him fit as quick as possible, and hopefully he can affect us in a positive way.
And I appreciate you don't know too much about the PSR hearing, but I just thought, because it's a second time around, do players know how to handle this? I know it's a really unusual situation, or do they have questions about it? Because it's sort of a case of here we go again. I know the fans feel some trepidation. How are you containing it in here?
Well, you can't judge every person in their own deepest psychology, but the main thing is to let them know that, look, we're all on board with it. It's a reality. They've dealt with it well so far. We're going to have to deal with it possibly again. We don't know, but certainly the noise around it. So I think it's an experience we didn't want. None of us wanted that, of course, but it's a reality. So I try and deal with realities when I can. And the players seem non-affected at this moment in time, so we'll wait and see what it brings.
We'll go to Will.
Hi Sean, can I just ask you about Forest's points deduction? Obviously only 4 points compared to Everton's 6. When they were in breach of allegedly 34.5 million, Everton were in breach of 19.5. Do you understand that? Can you get that? There's no consistency.
I mean, each. I don't know the minutiae of our own, let alone theirs. When you're in that room and the way they decide things, maybe there's different reasons. When it's that the facts you give like that, it sounds really obvious. But I can only imagine there's more depth to it, which is why they gave them that points and us that points. But on its simplest form, yes, of course, I think everyone's going, well, how does that work? But that's on its simplest form. I don't know all the depth behind that. I don't know the depth of all the case they put forward, because there's so much that goes into it. And unless I was physically there at these meetings, then you can't tell. So, what the reason, rhymes and reasons to it is down to the appeal situation. It's not down to me, that's for sure. But yeah, in its simplest form, then I think everyone, not just us, I think it's the same. It's similar but different to when the original charge was against us, and the time everyone went, how's that? Where did that come from? And not just Evertonians, by the way, or people with Everton. I mean, people across football. So in its simplest form, I think everyone's going, well, how does that work out? That's for them to decide. I can't do nothing about that.
Just on PSR, I mean, we're seeing maybe clubs are going to have to sell to meet rules as well. Do you think that there needs to be a change? Do you think it's almost like a glass ceiling for some clubs to break into that top 6 because of what's in place?
Well, the learning curve of what I imagine the learning curve is to see. But the one thing for sure is when our case here, look at the spending in January. So whatever the outcome was, everyone went, whoa, hang on a minute, the brakes need to go on because the spending is an all-time low, or more or less an all-time low. So therefore, to that to happen, that must have sent a wave through the whole of football. Whether that was part of it, whether it was just an add-on, I don't know. But it must have affected it. So how that affects the next steps that clubs are going to take, we're going to have to wait and see, including our own. Of course, I can only manage our own and think about our own, but there are some outside, like I say, that one particularly, it's like the ripple effect must have went through football, which is why the spending just went whoop, straight back down. Because everyone must have been going, right, okay, we need to find out where we're at, maybe with a bit more depth. I don't know. But it seems a pretty obvious knock-on effect. So we'll have to wait and see what comes next.
Onana had a really good game for Belgium against England the other night. Is the challenge for him now to really add cast iron consistency to his game? And although he's still quite young.
He's still a young player. You forget, I think it's like with a lot of young players, when they're brought in for a decent level fee, people somehow forget their age, Whereas if it's a kid coming out of the academy, they're just like, oh, he's young. And could be the same age, but it does give you a twisted view of it. And I understand why. And he deals with it pretty well, I think. But there's more to come from him, and there's more consistency, but there's more consistency in his performance, not necessarily what fans see, but the way we see, habits, the way he plays, and for him to keep developing. But he's a fine player, we know that.
Any further questions in the open section before we move on? No? Okay.